facilities.
Or X-ray-proof shielding, something like that. I was thinking.
Yeah, that may be simpler in the short term.
There is documentation on that, and it is possible to shut down machines with the high-energy RF. Protecting against it has been done. It is done, and it's fairly simple. You can basically enclose something in a giant metal box, which will prevent the outside RF. I don't know if that's done a lot inside the government. Some of the military computers need to be tempest-proof.
Brian, you were going to say something there.
I think I was just going to say that the box needs to be grounded. That's all.
If I may, I think it should be grounded, yeah.
Thank you.
One of the things I think is coming out here is got to do with the, it's not just the encryption, the strong encryption, it's not just the network or the operating system, it's all these things that have to be applied across the board in order for one person to actually have enough responsibility to be able to tackle the problem themselves. They have to be in an environment where there are others, not only in their own industry, but in other industries that are trying to raise that bar, so as a whole, the security goes up.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to all of you. Senator Thompson indicated that somebody had referred to you as rock stars of the new computer age. It's probably not what you came to hear, but actually I think you're performing an act of very good citizenship, and I appreciate it. I'd compare you, I hope you don't mind that I'm not going to call you rock stars, I'd compare you more to Rachel Carson, who sounded some early warnings about what environmental pollution was doing to the environment, and in the defense context you may be modern-day Paul Revere's, except in this case it's not the British coming. We don't know who's coming, that's the problem. I mean, yeah. Well, the chairman's question before was chilling. I mean, you are obviously very bright and very creative and work at this, but if there's anything we have learned at the modern age is that you don't, you cannot, particularly in this age, particularly because of computers where knowledge and information travels so quickly, just as you have been able to do this at Loft, there are people all around the world who are able to do this, and they may not be good citizens. They may be up for hire to people who don't wish us well. So I appreciate what you're doing, and I must say in this regard that it may be that the appropriate metaphor here is not Chernobyl, but unfortunately Oklahoma City, where if we looked at it, we would have understood, and some did, that there was real vulnerability, but we didn't do anything about it. And I think that's what you're telling us, and I hope we can continue to work with you to try to raise our guard. I think the other thing you've helped me to understand is that there is no such thing as absolute security. Nothing, no system is foolproof. I think what you said is that the aim here should be to make it more difficult to break a system, to infiltrate it. Of course, there never has been absolute security. I suppose it's just that the consequences of insecurity in an age in which we are also reliant on computers are more consequential. They're more massive. They're more widespread. Let me ask you a couple of questions following up on that theme of accepting that there's no system that's foolproof. You've said here in your testimony that given 30 minutes, you might be able to render the internet unusable. Not forever, obviously, but for some period of time. What can we do? What can the system do? What can the government do? What can private folks do to try to protect against that?
The one method of doing that we were referencing there are several. There are dozens of them actually. But this is a good example. You can prevent and you can stop that particular attack from happening. However, the nature of the internet and the companies that are providing the long-haul backbone connections of it is to move the information as quickly as possible across that, because that's money. Every packet, millions of packets go by a second, is worth a little bit of money. If you even stop to look at the packets, you have to send slightly less than your maximum capacity might be, in which case your competitor now has an edge on you because they can offer faster, more efficient service. So in order to protect yourself, you very slightly, 1 millisecond per packet, degrade service. But that definitely cascades into a noticeable financial hit, which the companies aren't willing to take, so they remain vulnerable.
So let me just compare things and go to you, Stefan von Neumann, because you talked about your work in utility systems. And let me ask you just to compare, for instance, today, leaving aside what we've talked about, or let's say 10 or 15 years ago, somebody who wanted to do damage to a utility system could cut wires, could, if they were more aggressive, blow up a power station, a substation. So compare that, the effects of something more primitive like that, from somebody with hostile intent, to the possibilities that you envision in the new world.
It could be more well timed, or more specific of an impact. I mean, where the detonation of an explosive near a substation could take down an entire grid with specific computer control of an area. You might be able to interrupt only one customer's service. Say if there was a commercial entity that was a target, that one commercial entity or that one government building could become denied of electric service or water service, or the whatever the utility service was that was going to benefit the attacker. So
computer service.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So in the past, where it simply was just a destruction, it might not have had the specific focus on the attack point, where now it allows that.
I think another issue is if somebody goes out and cuts a line, there's a plan in place. We send out a repairman, he fixes the line, you're all set.
Right.
You blow up the building, you rebuild it. If we attack the computer systems, how do we reconstitute from that?
Right.
There are no plans in place right now
And-
to recover from that.
And there may be no way to anticipate the follow-up. I mean, if there's an attack made, a physical attack, an explosion against, or line cutting, then there could be increased security in that area on those same facilities, so that the same thing wouldn't happen again. If it's a computer issue, I mean, the attacker could be sufficiently skilled that they could simply change their method slightly and go around any defense that's put up in the place of the first attack.
And the ability to find the attacker would be compromised, and it would be harder to find the attacker.
Simply because of the nature of the internet as it is, with the no authentication, no proof of where you are, who you are.
In your line cutting analogy, the guy goes out and snips the wire, maybe somebody saw him, we can track him through a witness. If he comes in over the internet and attacks the computer systems, we don't know where it came from and nobody saw him.
Exactly. Final question. Somebody used the VW example, and it's an interesting one. As you said, 3 cars show some sign of the impact of the wiring defect. They recall all 8,500 of the new Beetles that they've sold in the U.S. And as you said correctly, as far as I know, the 3 indications of hacking into a system, and nobody's under an obligation to do it. I haven't looked at this in a while, but the automobile companies and the recalls are not motivated simply by, if I may overuse the term here, good citizenship. There's law, and there is the fear of liability. So it is, and this is a complicated area, and as Dr. Neumann said, we got to be real careful not to jump too quickly without thinking about it. But is there a way in which we should be setting some standards here? I mean, for instance, a very simplistic standard would be to require systems operators or service providers or manufacturers to give public notice of instances of hacking, successful hacking into a system.
Or at least public notice of vulnerabilities that they've found in their system. This is definitely a double-edged sword, because when you give the information out,
Right.
Other people can figure out how to exploit it.
Yeah.
However, if you don't give the information out, the people out there can't protect themselves. I think we've tried it the route where we have kept the information secret. The Computer Emergency Response Team out of Carnegie Mellon does that. I think, and I know a whole bunch of people in the computer industry agree with me on this, that they have become more detrimental than beneficial by a long shot. A couple of words of encouragement from right behind me. Full disclosure is very important. I mean, you have to educate people. Education is one of the largest things that's really missing out of this. If I'm an administrator and there's a problem in what I have to control, but the companies don't let me know about it, I can't be expected to fix it. Even if the companies don't have a fix themselves, if I know of the problem, I might be able to put other things in place in front of it so I can catch it. Right. I might have a different setup. Not everybody has the exact same setup.
You might disconnect your system from the network.
Yeah, I might say, hey, that's really bad. I need to get off of there right now. Mm-hmm. But I'd be able to do that.
And I'll go one further, not only to point out the flaws, but also to point out the inner workings. This may be rehashing something that's well known, but the Unix environment being around for so many years, being public, being able to be examined, has most of the fixes quite well known. Microsoft Windows NT, all of their code is completely hidden from public eyes. They don't release it. It's, as it's been said, a black box. So the public, even if end user wanted to go and look inside the internals of, say, Windows NT, they're not allowed to. It's illegal, according to the software licensing put forth by Microsoft, to disassemble, to try and reverse engineer it. That kind of a limitation is just putting the brakes on investigation of the flaws.
It's like finding power, not being able to open the hood.
Exactly.
Amen. It's a good comparison to close on. I want to thank you again. This is another classic example of what we find very often on this side as lawmakers, which is that we see a problem, we want to make it better, we contemplate law, but this is in an area of very developed expertise, which most of us don't have. So we often rely on science, on data, and on the people who have more expertise, and then try to make the best judgment we can. In thinking, I really want to, although I know you've already got you got a day job and a night avocation, but to the extent that you find time, I really request that you think about what the government, what we as lawmakers, if anything, I mean, it may be that you're going to come back and say, you're only going to mess it up here. What we might do through law to deal with to protect ourselves from some of the vulnerabilities that you've identified. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much for being here with us today. I, like Senator Lieberman, think that you are performing a valuable service to your country, and we appreciate that, and want you to continue, and want you to continue to help us. I think the liability question is a very good one. I wonder, for example, whether or not it's a matter of laws, whether or not there are already laws under the common law, under state laws, the law of general tort law of negligence and fraud and uniform commercial code and all those things. The first time some big company has been compromised because of this, that it may fix itself, because there'll be a massive lawsuit, and everybody will wonder why we didn't address this in the beginning. But they're fascinating issues, and you've pointed out that our computer security is virtually non-existent, and how easy it is to obtain sensitive information and shut down valuable governmental operations, and we're going to have to do something about it. It's that simple.